The topic today is about women in technology. And the interesting thing about women in technology is there's all kinds of webinars, there's all kinds of activity, there's all kinds of interest in women in technology. And you know, one of the questions that I always have when I see women in technology is, what does that mean? Women in business, women in a certain segment of business. And so what we've done is we partnered with Lindsay and the IUPUI School of Science for their CSIP program, CSIP technology program, which I can tell you is, Lindsay, maybe you might want to explain what CSIP is.
Yeah. So hello to those of you that I don't know on here. I sit in the Dean's office in the School of Science, and I help support a great program in our Computer and Information Science department. And Mary, who's actually on here too, she's a part of that as well. And so we started this program a couple of years ago to really get to know local great technology companies better in Indianapolis and the surrounding area, because we have so many great students coming out of our school that we wanted to work on partnerships and having opportunities and places where students could have internships and just also find mentorship and advice and sound input from people that are in the industry doing what some of our students want to go and do as they venture out after graduation. And so we call it CSIP, is a program that we have a couple core partners every year that we engage with, and we bring them to the table, like for a webinar like this or on campus, to just really pour into our students or work with our faculty to just, support what we're doing here in our mission of serving the state, educating students that want to stick and stay here, and really, help keep Indianapolis wonderful. But I'm just a small part behind the scenes. It's partners like Bob and Lisa and their companies that really bring things to the table to hopefully pass on some wisdom and or answer questions or be a valuable resource as you guys are navigating through either your undergraduate degree or your graduate degree. So thank you, Bob. Thanks, Bob and Lisa, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm hoping that you're going to be jumping on and you'll have some things to say in this thing. So you're a panelist also, just so you know. I'm the president of CustomerCount, which is owned by Mobius Vendor Partners. We are an online feedback system. So when you check out of a hotel, you might get an email from a company like ours or from us that says, how was your stay? So some people refer to it as surveys. We refer to it as feedback because in our world it's continuous. And so there is a point in our business world where we are trying to define ourselves. Are we a service company or are we a technology company? And so what I've determined and what I've figured out is that we are both. And we're both because we have the opportunity to provide technology to our clients that helps them collect data and feedback so they know how they're doing. But the flip side of that is that we're providing a very valuable service. And so what I'm going to introduce Lisa Kovac now. Lisa Kovac is the EVP of Operations and Client Services here. Lisa has been on both sides of life, heavy duty on the service side and heavy duty in the technology side. She kind of manages both here at our company. So thought it'd be good to have her in so that you know that there's more than that there's more to technology than just slinging code. So, Lisa.
Yes, sir.
Hi there.
Hi there. Welcome, everybody. So happy you could join us. And Bob, thanks for this opportunity. Lindsay, thanks for the opportunity. Like Bob said, one of the perspectives that I hope to bring today to you is the not only the technology side of things, but the service side as well. The two need to coexist, and they need to coexist very effectively. So the ability for all the great technology that is developed and coded and designed needs to interface directly with business requirements, obviously. So one of the big roles that I play and other people within our organization is basically taking those business needs, working closely with the programmers, the designers, all the great technology team that we have on board, and defining and determining how best to deliver the product to the client, to ultimately to our customer, that fits their specific needs. So it's kind of a perspective that's a little bit different, as opposed to, you know, just talking about specific coding or how you code, or the role of coding or the role of designing from the technology standpoint. It's also understanding, as you proceed with that, you know, what types of requirements does the business need to deliver the ultimate product and service that the client's after. So that's basically the role at a high level that I play. And Bob, I know one of the things that you always talk about is how we collect the business requirements from the client and the need to keep that ear open, and then the determination that we go through and the things that we weigh to figure out, you know, what can we deploy, what should we deploy, you know, all the business aspect of the technology. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, how you balance that and the things that you look for in determining how we might evolve our software to better service clients, specifically related to when a client comes to us with request?
Well, I'm happy to discuss that. I'm not sure that it's entirely germane to women in technology. The part that is really germane about that, Lisa, what I find is that because let's just say it like it is. I'm like the head sales guy here. And so when I'm working with a prospect and I'm working to close that sale and bring them in as part of the CustomerCount family, it's typically a male. I'm typically working with a male who is that decision maker. And once that decision gets made, it passes off to generally a female. I don't know, Lisa, in your life, how many men you work with on a day-to-day basis, but I think what I've noticed that in the operations side, it's the ladies, the women that are assuming the role of project manager, chief deployment, and ongoing management. I mean, is that your take?
Very much so. Very much so. Now we do, you know, have as well some males that are in that process. But I'd say for the most part, Bob, yeah, that interim role between technology and, I want to say, external facing with vendors or clients is typically a female role, which is a very strong role, very pertinent role.
And so then the question that I have is, in your particular case, I know that you've had a career path. You've had a good career path. You had a good career path in the service industry. You had a great career path in nonprofit, and now you have a great career path in what you're doing today with CustomerCount. You still have room to grow, and a lot of that has to do with your skill and your talent. What happens? What I see happen in like large companies is that there's always a ceiling for both men and women, but mostly I think for women have that ceiling. And you know, I run into men all the time that are standing on second base and think they hit a double, not realizing that they've had the benefit of some perspectives that females don't enjoy. And I know, and you and I have talked about this a lot, and you didn't really feel like you faced a lot of that. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I didn't face a lot of it. You know, I think part of that was environmental, where I was, the culture of where I was, you know, the different roles that I've been privileged to play over the years. The culture of the organization was receptive and openly trying to ensure that there was opportunity for everyone. Having said that, I think it's incumbent upon us as women, for a moment, if I can talk from that perspective purely, to position ourselves as best as possible for those additional opportunities, regardless of that environment. You know, if we have an environment that's more conducive to it, awesome. If we have an environment that maybe not as I don't want to say open. I think everybody is to some extent, but you may have some additional challenges that you need to overcome. You know, what can we as women look at and try to do to maximize our potential or our opportunities? One of the things that I've found in working with other women in a technology environment, as well as, you know, in general business environment or nonprofit environment, is continually investing in our growth and our learning, to not only improve ourselves personally, but to improve the value that we provide to the organization. So, you know, I think oftentimes we might get a little pigeonholed in trying to be really good at one thing when we can expand out and introduce ourselves and expose ourselves to other areas that may not be exactly at the top 3 of where we want to go. But I think understanding a bigger picture and the role that we play within that bigger picture and how all the pieces fit together really helped me and has helped other females that I've seen and worked with in a, whether it's a small company or large company, helps them grow and prosper. So that's probably the biggest thing, Bob. When I tell you that I didn't necessarily encounter it, it was really twofold. I think the environments were conducive to my growing within them. And then also the commitment that I made to continuous growth, continuous learning, and really understanding what role I played and how it reacts with other parts of the organization, and ultimately the delivery to whoever that end customer is for the organization.
One of the other important things that I see, again, this is from the male perspective, is the fact that when if a woman gets too ambitious, she is a witch. When a guy gets too ambitious, he's ambitious.
Way to go! Yeah.
Yeah, way to go. You know, you're tough, you're growing, you're this, you're that. And that seems like it's one of those, it could be one of those disadvantages unless you know how to use that.
Lisa, I think you have an important thing when you first started talking about culture. And so I think as these students, and I would love for you guys maybe to put in the chat if you are an undergrad or a graduate student, maybe what year you are, so we have an idea of if you've got a couple more years of your training here, or if you're like ready to hit the job market in the next few months here. But I think culture is so important. So I think in any organization as a woman, you know, you need to not be afraid to dig a little deeper and find out who is there, who works there, who would you be working alongside, who would be maybe in the department you would be in. It's really great if you can get to talk to someone besides just whoever is hiring you. But you guys are tech students, you know, use your resources, Google things, look at reviews, and those reviews aren't everything online, but I would just say arm yourself with being aware of the culture of an organization. Make sure that it's a good fit for you, because that work-life balance is so important. And you guys are going to be sought after with your degrees. Having a computer science degree it will take you anywhere. And so don't be afraid to stand up and fight for a place, to be in a place that you're going to be respected and you're going to be valued, and you will be able to have a seat at the table. I think many organizations really are, you know, things have changed, and women are leading the charge all over the place. And so I certainly think our computer science students can go and do that anywhere. And Lisa, you also talked about the importance of professional development. And I kind of want to lean into that just a second too, to talk about, I also think networking as a woman is important. And so, you know, joining an association or being a part of things in the community where you can network, not only within your discipline, but in other areas, just to, you know, just to round yourself out, to know what's happening in your community or in the world. And finding a mentor, I think, is really important in today's working environment, you know, whether it's in your organization or outside, but someone that you maybe strive to to be, or that you look up to them, or that you think they're doing some really neat things, like don't be afraid to reach out and ask for support, or if they'd be interested in being an informal mentor. Sometimes those things happen naturally. You meet someone and you walk alongside them through your career. But I have gotten a lot of great support by people that I had to have a little bit of courage to reach out and say, like, hey, you're doing something really neat and I want to learn more about that. And could we maybe have coffee like once every few months? And just having those conversations to learn a little bit more, it gave me more tools in my tool belt as a professional in the working world.
Yeah, and Lindsay, that is a that is a really good point. I have found, and would be interested to see if you found the same thing. I've never been turned down with that. Particularly people that I've identified as being able to help me grow, and that I can learn something from, and that I admire. They're everything that I thought they would be, and that they're more than willing to help and to talk things through. Have you found that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of our students in here, I don't know if you saw the comments, but she shared that she's an undergrad junior African-American woman. It's so important that the environment is welcoming and accepting. So yeah. And I hope that we're saying your name correctly. We might not be, but is it Mayata? Yeah, I think, go after it and don't be afraid of anything that you want to pursue. Or, in some places you might be a minority there. And I think that's a special experience too. So arm yourself with people around you and make sure it's a good fit for you. But then, gosh, go out there and be a voice. Take your talent. Do great things.
You have to be aware too that depending on your path, you can be a business major and find a role in technology. You can be a psychology major and find a role in technology. So the word technology really has a lot of different meanings, and there's so many different career paths you can take. There's technology in healthcare. You're at Indiana University right now. You're across the street from one of the top 10 medical schools in the world. You're next door to one of the top 10 law schools in the world, and all of those are embracing technology, and it's going to continue to grow. How you approach that as a female, I just still see the biases, and it's the biases that kind of bother me a little bit, but that's just from a male's angle. So I'm far from the expert, but boy, there are a lot of careers. I have friends of mine that are lobbyists at the Indiana General Assembly and in Washington, D.C. that work for technology companies that are women. And, you just think about all the different verticals inside all the different horizontals that there's just a lot of opportunity, and the opportunity for women is growing every day. It's just growing faster and faster and faster. And Lindsay brought it up too, and that's the part about the work-life balance. One of the things that we all discovered with the pandemic is the work-life balance. When people talk about, the quiet quitting, and you might read about this phenomenon of people leaving their jobs and, oh my God, where are they? Where'd they go? Well, where they went was they went back to their work-life balance. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that they've disappeared from the workforce. It means they've shifted their priorities, and good for them. Good that they did, so that, and so I'll throw something else out there to both Lindsay and Lisa. And this has to do going back to the culture thing that Mattia was curious about or insistent upon. There are in most companies, most of your larger companies, they have groups called Women in the Industry, or Women in Technology, or and I'm sure that there's one there at IU that it's a group of women that get together and discuss careers and discuss what's next. I actually attend some of those, and when I go to those, I'm going to learn, but I also know what it's like to be a minority. When I walk in the door and there are 300 women there to learn about women's issues in business, and I'm like the only man, I do understand the minority thing. Certainly not if I was a Black female entering into the marketplace looking for that culture that's going to embrace me. So I don't know, Lisa, you or Lindsay, you guys want to help me out with that one?
Well, I think it's just, bringing your skill set, whether, no matter who you are, it's doing well in your studies here. It's setting yourself up for success so that when you have an opportunity, when you're presented with an internship interview or your first job interview or your first few job interviews, it's making sure that you're well-rounded and that you are on top of your game and that you are also just being yourself and being real and honest with your potential employer. But I don't think anyone in today's age should be afraid of being the first or the only, but I think there are typically usually women in most organizations in today's world. I just, and I think in technology, we're seeing more and more women in that field. It just probably depends. And again, I'm not in that space, but I think probably size of the organization, whether it's a 10-person company or a 1,000-person company, you're going to have probably more women the larger the organization is. But I would just encourage our students to just put their head down and do great work and be connected as you could be, and lean on your faculty. And I know that to be in our program, you are strong students. And so I know you're already excellent, but I would just encourage you not to be afraid of pursuing whatever it is you want to do. And if you are trying to stay in Indiana to work after you graduate or need some support or just want to talk about opportunities, I think I put that in the chat to someone, but we're happy to help or be a resource or support you on this journey because we are proud at IUPUI to educate students from around here and also to support you to stay here if that's what you'd like. There's a lot of opportunity here. And so we'd love to see our great talent stay here in the state.
Well, okay, so sort of like getting back into my main line again. I mean, the question of technology, a career in technology is like a 26-letter word. I mean, it's huge. And, where you land has to do with, back to Lindsay's point, your passion. What's your passion? If it's healthcare, there's technology in healthcare. If, you can pick a vertical. And by the way, there are technology companies. I know that the other partners in this CSIP program, there are 3 other partners, I think, right, Lindsay? And they're technology companies. They're always recruiting. And sometimes when you get companies that are part of an organization like this, they're pretty like-minded, and you may find that better culture. You may find that company that has, they're more open-minded, and I think that's where you really want to look. If you want to stay in technology, you go to work for a technology company. If you want to stay in technology, go to work for a healthcare company and do their technology. And so you just, the world is your oyster, but don't compromise. One of the things I notice when I'm in meetings sometimes, when we're in big board meetings or whatever, and the woman starts to talk, sometimes the first word out of their mouth is "excuse me" or "I'm sorry" about what they're about to say. And I always wondered, why are they apologizing? Don't ever apologize. Be strong.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Bob, to add to that, and Lindsay, you made some great points about doing all the research, understanding the company and the type of culture that you want to get into, as well, to Bob's point, as to what it is that you want to do with your degree. During the interview process or during the discovery process that you have with every company when you're interacting with them or every potential organization, don't be afraid to ask the question, what does promotion look like here? What is that path? What are my opportunities? What do you do to support growth? You can ask about, the groups that are there. A lot of companies that have the type of culture that is a welcoming, inclusive culture like to talk about and want to talk about all of their diversity and inclusion type programs that they have. Like Bob talked about, women in the industry. I know several companies here locally as well as nationally that have different groups within their organization that provide support and mentoring and additional educational opportunities. And last thing I would think about too, and Bobby gets to your point about don't lead with I'm sorry or forgive me or excuse the interruption, but be yourself. Back to Lindsay's point, don't compromise. One of the things that I have seen females fall into a trap with in the past is they try to be a chameleon. They try to all of a sudden become something they're not in order to fit a situation. Yes, we all have to make compromises. That's part of life. But recognize that line that you go to and don't try to avoid stepping over the line to where all of a sudden you're morphing into something that is not you. As Lindsay pointed out, you guys are extremely successful. You have a lot of capability coming, to the school, and you will certainly have many more tools in your toolkit leaving the school. So don't compromise and be yourself. Yes, you've got to do a little bob and weave here and there, but overall make sure that you're staying true to yourself. I think that's the one thing that I have seen some women in the past, some colleagues, as well as people within higher management than myself kind of fall into a trap on.
I was actually thinking, Lisa, about really putting you on the spot, asking you, what's it like to work with your spouse? But maybe we'll save that for another day. I will tell you this much, that I work with men and I work with women, and I have a great time working with my wife. And a lot of times they tell you don't work with your spouse, but I will tell you I don't see anything wrong with it at all. I enjoy it, and I will tell you that having the female perspective in senior management for me is like very, very valuable. It's really important because you know what? Not all buyers are white middle-class American men, and we need to make sure that we invite inclusiveness and diversity and all those things from a culture standpoint and a business standpoint. Do business for the right reasons.
Absolutely, and do business in the right way. That's the right reasons in the right way, and that's the type of culture that I think everybody strives to be a part of. And Bob, I will say too, and you can't put me on the spot. Yes, I have enjoyed working with you as well. It's like any other relationship that you define everyone's strengths and you find ways to work together. It's like any other scenario in a business environment that I would have, and I think we've both done a good job of that respect issue, which I'm going to bounce off of that for a minute. Respect, that is one of the other things that I think women sometimes feel that they have to work harder for in an environment. But again, I think all the conversation that we've had to this point helps lay a great framework and a groundwork for us to earn that respect. All the things we've talked about, the self-confidence that you lead with, your toolkit that you continue to expand upon, inclusive of finding those mentors, networking, as well as increasing your individual knowledge base, finding ways you can contribute, making yourself known. And that's another thing, Bob. I know you've talked about this in the past in working, with women in the industry type groups. You sometimes hear that women are sometimes more reluctant to toot their own horns. Have you found that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, men beat their chests, and rightfully so, by the way. I mean, I don't want anybody to think that I'm anti-male here. Men do things the right way, and women should adopt some more of that. But then again, there are some traits that men have that just are like, well, they think like men. What can I say? But Taya asked a question about speaking and working on speaking skills. I have a couple of things that I do, and I do a lot of public speaking, but I still have to practice. Things like this help quite a bit. But when you're sitting at your desk and you're just doing work, what you might think about doing is turn your camera on, let you see what you look like. And as you see what you look like, the more you do that, the more confidence you gain in your ability to project yourself. And you'll get some, once you do that, and your speaking confidence will begin to grow. And the other thing you can do is, if you don't want to do the camera, is put a mirror in front of you. So every time you're talking to somebody on the phone or wherever, you can see what you look like, and that helps you gain that confidence that you need. I hope that answered your question. Did it? Well, we'll just assume it did. Does anyone else have questions? Because
I was just going to speak to becoming more confident. I think I was a communication major actually in business, and I hated speaking in front of people. It still is not my favorite thing, but I also think just with time and experience and practice, you overcome those fears and you get a little bit better, and things start to bother you a little less. And you just start to believe in your work more. Like, you know, you're doing the right thing, or you've worked on, you'll do some project management or whatever it is out there, and you just become more confident. And I think then that comes out in your ability to speak to small groups or in a boardroom or at the table. I would say, give yourself grace in just learning more and having more time and experience. But that is also something too you could practice with a mentor, or pushing yourself to go to events or things that maybe stretch you outside of your comfort zone, but where you need to speak and you need to be heard, or you need to kind of just experience talking more about the work you do. I think you'll just become more confident over time.
And look up Toastmasters International. Toastmasters International is an organization. I think here in Indy there are probably 6 or 7 chapters. May even be one at IU or Purdue, but their function is to work with people who want to be better at speaking, public speaking, conversational speaking, business speaking. So Toastmasters International is a very good group to look for.
One of the things too, and speaking, I think is, as Lindsay and Bob have both said, is one of the most difficult things for a lot of people. I mean, I know you read surveys or polls all the time that people say that's their number one fear. You know, it's above anything else, even death in some instances. A few things that have helped me along the way in getting more confident in my speaking and being more comfortable talking to both smaller groups as well as larger groups, even one-on-one scenarios with people that I may view the chips to be a little bit higher in that communication. Number one, I do not hesitate to pause. And I think a lot of people get into a scenario where they don't want any dead air in a conversation. It's okay to take a couple seconds to collect your thoughts before you go into the next sentence or the next point that you want to make. The second thing that I tend to focus on, and that's helped me over the years, is my nonverbals. You know, the communication expression beyond what I'm saying, the how I'm saying it. If I'm sitting up straight or standing up straight, if I'm doing something as seemingly insignificant as wearing my favorite shirt, keeping the smile on my face, keeping my eye contact with people, making sure that my voice is projecting. All of those things that are nonverbals, being open in my stance, all of those things that are perceived as being nonverbals in a communication world. Lindsay can certainly speak to this more than I can, being a communications major. Those not only give an impression or a perception to the people that you're communicating with, but doing those in a way that you are comfortable with and doing those in a positive way makes you a more confident speaker. So that all of the nonverbals that are lined up the way they need to be also helps the actual content of what you're saying. I find that I get a lot more confident when I've got all those nonverbals in a row as well.
So that's an awful lot of information about how to be a better speaker. I could, and you know what, that goes back along with exactly what Lindsay, well, all three of us have talked about confidence and how do you gain confidence. I read an article in Psychology Today one time about confidence and about the fact that shy people tend to be better communicators. And it makes sense to me because I am one, we tend to compensate for that shyness. And when we compensate for that shyness, we appear to be more confident. I know that when I'm talking about certain topics, I am the subject matter expert. And so what we're talking about is something that I happen to know more about than anybody I might be talking to. And that helps project confidence when you know that you are, in fact, the subject matter expert. And I tell you, in technology, that's a tricky thing because in technology, my rule of thumb is if a programmer tells me that they could do something in one day, I automatically multiply times 3. I mean, I automatically say, yeah, that means 3 days. Because in technology, it's so hard to be precise when you're looking for a precise solution. And so you've got to be able to project, and you have to be, and that's why I think it's good that we're spending this kind of time on that. Lindsay wants to know, do we have questions from any other students? Yeah, that's a good question, Lindsay. Anybody?
Latika has any questions.
This is being recorded and it will be on the CustomerCount YouTube channel. And we'll make sure that Lindsay has it. And so if you need a copy of any of this or the information, Lindsay's email is at the bottom here. And you're welcome to reach out to her, and you can reach out to me and or Lisa anytime. I'm Bob Kobeck at MobiusVP.com or Lisa Kobeck at MobiusVP.com. Feel free to reach out anytime. We'd love to hear from you. Any other questions, comments? Lindsay, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I just put it out there for our students. You know, I'm in the dean's office, like I said, and it says Macy on here, but she actually goes by Mary, but she'll go by either name. But she's over there in the department. And so, you know, lean on us, reach out to us. We're happy to connect you. You probably work with Tennille for your advising. You know, she's a great resource. We have our preps office. If you are not familiar with, I would go meet those fabulous. They're actually all women, I think, over there that are leading that team, and they're really great for, you know, resume prep or mock interviews, things like that, getting you ready for career fairs, any of that. We've got great resources here that we'd love to support you however we can as you continue your journey.
We good?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. And Lindsay, we'll get together and talk about the next one, what we want to do. Hey, Mayata and Ratika, if you have any ideas of some topics that you want us to talk about, we're going to do at least one of these before the year for next year. So let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for taking your time to be here.
Enjoy your day. Thanks, everybody.